Catholic priests, when required to instruct a potential convert who seems incapable of grasping the simplest points of doctrine, sometimes speak of invincible ignorance. This is an interesting phrase. Willful ignorance, not stupidity, is the problem, and nothing penetrates this wall. It frequently happens that a lack of interest is mistaken for stupidity. Most of us are incapable of understanding matters in which we have no interest, whereas those who are passionately interested will master a subject which, to others, appears complex and abstruse. Interest is the motor which drives the mind and the imagination. I once had a friend who edited a small magazine of comparative religion. One day his neighbour accosted him over the garden fence. "I'm told you're involved in religious matters," he said, adding with the pride of an independent thinker, "I feel I should tell you that I am an atheist." My friend expressed mild interest and asked the man if he had ever read Plato or Plotinus. He had not. "Perhaps you have studied St. Augustine and Aquinas?" "No?" "Pascal might be more to your taste." "Ah, then perhaps you have ventured further afield. The Upanishads?" "Never heard of them," said the man. "The Koran?" "The what?" This went on for a while until my friend sighed and told his neighbour, "You're not an atheist, you're an ignoramus." Here we have a mystery that merits investigation. Borrowing from Pascal, let us suppose someone is told that a treasure of inestimable value was buried years ago at the bottom of his garden. He need only dig for it and he would be a rich man. He may be sceptical, and with good reason. This seems an improbable story, to say the least. But would anyone in his right mind not be tempted to get out his spade and start digging? The religious traditions which have descended upon mankind, to use the Quranic phrase, claim to offer a passport to heaven. If this is true, it is indeed a treasure beyond price. What is one to think of those who cannot be bothered to investigate? Pascal answers, "This carelessness in a matter which concerns themselves, their eternity, their all, moves me more to anger than to pity. It astonishes and shocks me. It is to me monstrous." But Pascal has another argument to convince the unbeliever, and this is his famous wager, Pascal's wager. Summarized, it goes like this. You are obliged to make a bet on whether religion, in this case obviously Christianity, he was a French Catholic, is true or false, although according to reason you can defend neither of the propositions. You accept the challenge and you make your choice. Let us weigh the gain and the loss in wagering that God is, says Pascal. Let us estimate these two chances. If you gain all. If you lose nothing. You will never be offered such odds in Las Vegas or Monte Carlo. This argument should appeal to the modern skeptic who claims to be certain of nothing and cannot therefore be certain that there is no God. He might just as well wager on the remote chance that he is wrong, having all to gain and nothing to lose. It is perhaps in rather the same spirit that the Quran asks, "Have you considered if this is indeed from God, and then you reject it? Who is further astray than he who is in clear discord?" To many people, this must seem a chilly proposition. They associate religious conversion with powerful feelings and passionate commitment. It is true, the gift of faith may well up from the centre of the being, self-evident and compulsive, but that is a rare event. For the most part, will and deliberate intention are decisive, and this is why Islam condemns the unbeliever, not for holding the wrong opinions or failing to be emotionally moved by the truth, but for a perverse act of the will. I remember the mockery suffered by the chief witness at a particular famous spy trial in America, who told the press that on a particular evening, he and his wife had vowed that they would begin to believe in God at midnight. They sat in their kitchen, their eyes on the clock, atheists until the moment when the hands came together on the number 12. Thereafter, they were believers. In other words, they had made the wager. So why is it that with so much to gain and so little to lose, very few atheists and agnostics are prepared to make it? Ignorance, certainly, carelessness and laziness, but there are many reasons for the rejection of traditional religion in Western Europe. The situation in the United States is different, although not as different as it might appear. The majority of people still attend their churches regularly, and many may read the Bible, or in some cases thump it. But among what are known as the opinion formers, influential people in the media, writers and scientists, skepticism is the rule rather than the exception. As the Arabs say, a fish rots from the head down. That's a great maxim. A fish rots from the head down. In every society, it is the leaders of opinion, the voices most often heard, who eventually prevail. The silent majority may protest, but they listen. They cannot avoid listening. They are men and women of their time, and this time is, in all its aspects, hostile to religious doctrine and subversive of unquestioning faith. But perhaps hostile is too strong a word. It is more often a case of indifference, and this may be even more difficult to overcome than outright hostility. Religion is tolerated in the West. You are free to believe in fairy stories if you wish. An English doctor of my acquaintance, who was a practicing Christian, told me that her colleagues in the hospital where she worked treated her with affectionate amusement, rather as though she had some odd and slightly eccentric hobby. It takes all sorts, they said, with an indulgent smile. How patronising. Muslims usually take the opposite view. How true this is. Faith is central. Unbelief is eccentric, in the sense of being eccentric, far from the centre, out in the wilderness. If they are able to feel indulgent to the unbeliever, it is because this man or this woman is assumed to be stupid and ignorant, lacking intellect. Have you then no sense? The Quran asks again and again, and such idiocy verges on insanity, which is forgivable. So we have indifference, ignorance, and in some cases, active hostility, requiring explanation if we are to account for the displacement of religion from the centrality it once enjoyed. So far as hostility is concerned, one argument is presented again and again. Religious people behave no better than their unbelieving neighbours, sometimes worse. They are often cruel, sometimes violent, towards those who do not share their dangerous certainties. They preach compassion and are far from compassionate, and their hypocrisy goes hand in hand with smug self-righteousness. One of the most famous recent science fiction writers, Arthur C. Clarke, published a book supposedly predicting the human situation at the end of the next millennium. Apart from populations living in vast space stations and brain caps by means of which everyone has access to all knowledge, however useless, sounds like the internet, he predicts that religion will be outlawed as a source of evil and cause of war. Among his multitude of readers, there are, no doubt, many who would think this is a sensible measure. When war, violence and cruelty are attributed to religion, then it is a short step to the conviction that belief in God is a self-serving illusion, and a dangerous one at that. Yet the argument is faulty and provides clear evidence of incomprehension. The way in which religious people behave or misbehave is irrelevant. It may tell us a great deal about human nature, but it tells us nothing else. There is only one question to be asked and answered. Is there a reality above and beyond us, our creator, sustainer, and judge? If the answer is in the affirmative, then the actions of those who acknowledge this fact are immaterial. They may incorporate its implication into their lives, or they may not. A fact is still a fact, regardless of how people react to it. We all know that the sun exists and is the source of our life. The fact that some people will suffer sunstroke or skin cancer does not make us doubt its existence. This argument against the truth of religion betrays a very significant absurdity. It really amounts to the proposition that only what serves our immediate interests can be true. Whatever else is thought to be contrary to these interests must be false. The truth and falsehood are asserted in terms of human welfare, understood in the narrowest sense, and there is no other criterion. I'm going to end that here. Now, I've just been reading from Remembering God, Reflections on Islam by Guy Eaton, a British diplomat, convert to Islam. He had been a Muslim 50 years when he sadly passed away a couple of years ago. This was the first book on Islam I ever read. I remember buying it in Waterstones in Piccadilly, and it totally blew my mind. I was a Christian at the time. I thought, wow, this is a powerful, beautiful, insightful man with a great intellect and a great cultural sensitivity and understanding of the West and Islam as well, of course. Anyway, so I thought I'd just share that reading with you. There are many more gems in this book if you want to have a read. Till next time.